Welcome to Skillcast, the podcast by the London Organisation of Skills Development, where skills are the forefront of all conversations. My name is Nurbanu, and I'll be the host for Season 1. Join me as I dig deep and be a little nosy and find out the story behind the skills our expert guests share with us.
So, Wani, go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi, everybody. My name is Wani Iris Manley. I am a TEDx and award-winning speaker. I am also a business and IP lawyer, and I actually help companies and individuals thrive through change and change management.
Oh, wow. When did you do your TED Talk?
I did my TED Talk in 2022, and I'm probably going to do another one again probably this year.
What was the first one about?
The first one is about change. It's called Change and Changes Everything, and it's essentially my story of how I actually became to start speaking about change, which was I live in Paris. I'm from Miami. And how I ended up in Paris was that for an entire year, I kept getting all these signs about Paris. I had no connection to Paris whatsoever. I wasn't a typical American. I was just like crazy about France or French culture. But I was just called to go there. And so I sold my apartment. I sold my car. I gave away all my things to different charities. And I moved to Paris. I know a single person. Not one word of French, not having a plan A, B, or C, or what the hell I was going to do when I actually got there. And that was 10 years ago.
Oh, wow. Do you regret it?
Not at all. Not at all. In fact, I would not be sitting here with you doing this podcast, here at Oxford, had I not actually done that. I mean, what's transcended from that? It's like, it continuously blows my mind, like with every incredible thing that's shown up in my life since then.
So tell me a little bit more. You talked about, you kept getting these signs. Paris. So what does that actually mean? Like you hear these people like say, oh, I really believe in my intuition was telling me, but what does that actually mean? Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Sure. Well, mine was quite overt. So really it started like in 2011 where like 3 days into the new year, I just kept getting all the signs. So the first one was that I had a really good friend named Sharon in Fort Lauderdale, who invited me to go to one of her business conferences, like with one of her coaches. And it was a 2-day conference. And when Sharon and I got there, it was quite early in the morning. And then we were the first ones to get there. And this like Jeep just comes like speeding through the park like that. And this guy comes out of the car and he just comes and plants a kiss on my cheek. And I was just completely dumbfounded because I had no idea who he was. And he just started speaking French to me. And when I finally got myself together to really speak, and I was like, what are you doing? He was French. That was sign number 1. Sign number 2 was we're in this conference, and for an entire 8 hours, every time the teacher or the coach would actually make a reference or a joke about something, it would always about France or French culture. She'd always look dead at me. And so it was like, I'm very observant, and I kept noticing this, and that was the whole weekend. And then the third big occurrence of that was I woke up the next day when I went home the next morning. I began my day meditating like I always do. And I started having these visions of just essentially the different landmarks of Paris actually speaking to me, or not speaking to me, actually just showing up. And so that's just really how it started. It was just quite overt signs like that. I was getting emails from all this from random French people that I had no idea about. I would go to restaurants in Miami, and Miami is essentially Latin America, or North Cuba, they call it, where Spanish is the predominant language, but everywhere I went, it was just France, or Paris. So it was literally like that for every single day for an entire year from January 3rd until December 3rd, Paris. And so that's what I ended up doing, just moving here or moving there.
Hey, would you consider yourself as a spiritual person?
Absolutely, 100%.
So what does spirituality mean to you?
It means many different things. I believe in a higher power. I grew up Christian, going to church and, reading the Bible. But for me, there was just always something missing. And it wasn't until I actually found spirituality, I really connected to Indian culture and just reading the Bhagavad Gita and learning Sanskrit. And so for me, it's just really connecting with oneself, seeing yourself or seeing everything and everyone as God. And just really letting go of the ego, all of your karma, meaning your conditioning that just keeps us in a life of struggle, and just really connecting you are the self, and just connecting with that and living to your highest potential. And so it encompasses many things. For me, it doesn't necessarily mean I need to go to an ashram or I need to be sitting with my hands like this, but what's my intention about how I'm living? Am I being charitable to people right now? Because it's the same thing I always tell, Christians, like, you don't need to go to church to, to worship God. It's like, who are you when you leave church on Sundays, or, when you actually interact with other people?
So would you consider yourself as a religious person as well? Or would you just say, I'm just a spiritual being? Which side would you turn towards?
I would definitely say I'm a spiritual being. I'm a very curious person. So for example, like, I've been doing Ramadan as a first time as a non-Muslim, and I just felt called to it. I wrote my first book, and I went to Tunisia to edit my book, and it happened to be during Ramadan. And I actually wrote my book just in like the most peaceful environment, like facing the sea and listening to the call out prayer. And I was like, well, I would like to do this. And it just called to me. And, God speaks to us, in so many, if you have the heart and the intuition to listen, I just felt called to us. I asked my Muslim friends, I said, would it be offensive for me to actually engage in this? And they were like, absolutely not. And it's been the most epic experience of my life.
Well, so beautiful. I absolutely love that. I love how you're so open-minded. It's such a beautiful thing to have. Do you have anyone that inspires you? Because obviously it's a whole mindset thing going on here. Like, how can someone develop their mindset, be so open to change, and just be someone who's willing to listen to their inner voice?
I think for me, the first person that actually really inspired was my spiritual teacher, Patrick. And Patrick was actually English, and he was actually raised to be England's next prime minister. He went to school with Prince Harry and Prince William at Eton College, came from extreme amounts of wealth. But for somehow, like, at a certain point, he just kind of went on a whole pilgrimage to India, because he was like, there's got to be more to life than playing football, drinking, and, shopping in Harrods. And he went to India, like, not necessarily looking for a teacher, but just like, certain teachers like came into his life, and he discovered the path of enlightenment. And like, this is actually what we're here to do. So he denounced all of his wealth, and he just began dedicating his life to really clearing his karma and to showing others, what the path really is. And so for me, when I actually met Patrick, everything opened up in my life with spirituality. And so, I mean, even like for example, I am an attorney, and I'm also West African, and African culture is like, okay, there's about achieving, you either become a lawyer, become a doctor. I was never creative, but then when I got on the spiritual path, like, a whole side of it began to open up, like being more of my true self, and began writing books, and just being like, living like a much more fully expressed life. Yes. Speaking of, to me, that's also spirituality as well too, is to be living a fully expressed life of what you meant to be doing.
I just feel so open just speaking to you. It's just really inspiring me. Like, I just think, I don't get it. How does someone develop that mindset to just let go? Because right now I'm on a journey. I'm middle of doing my PhD at the moment. And I feel like I get a lot of my confidence from the fact that I'm actually doing a PhD. How can I let go of that feeling and then just focus on just me? Like, how can I live so fully and not depend on that aspect?
I really feel that there's a bigger force that's guiding this life, right? And I feel like whatever we're living, there's just so much more for us to be experiencing life. And to the extent that we're not living that, and to the extent that there's things in our life that we have and we don't quite want, we're not experiencing, by definition, it's something we're holding on to that's not allowing us to actually do that, right? And so for me, I like to ask the question, what if I just let go of this? What if I let go of my title, of my identity of being a lawyer, right? When I did that, guess what happens? I'm sitting here doing a podcast from Oxford University, which is why I always wanted to go to school. I've been on a TEDx stage, it's like I'm in a documentary. It's like all these different things begin to happen when I was started to let go of the clinginess to the path of, okay, being a this and being a that. And it's like, there's just so much more, for us to experience. And I just think, you just ask, so who would I be if I just let go of this part of me and let go of what I think my life is actually supposed to be? Because I guarantee, as incredible as the PhD is, which is like, I mean, we're amongst a whole bunch of scholars here. Everyone here is a doctor, right? And we all work hard for that. I worked hard for my Esquire after my name is well too. But at the end of the day, that's not who we are. And I think it's limited, to be quite honest with you.
So this actually reminds me of a podcast that I was listening to quite recently. And in this particular podcast, it was talking about letting go. So there was this person on a little boat, and what was happening, there was wind going, there was wind, and the tides were a little bit high as well. So as much as this person was trying to row in their boat, trying to go left, but because of the wind, because of the intensity of the tides, they were going the other direction. So sometimes you want to go on a certain path, but obviously the universe is sending you signs saying, I don't think that's your path. It's probably that way over there.
Yes.
So it's just, I'm just remembering this now. I'm getting this really cool. I think it's just really interesting, and I'm just trying to find ways of trying to apply that into my life. And someone else may just kind of feel like, okay, if you're getting these signs, maybe it means something. Maybe not, but if you don't be open and receptive to it, you're never going to know. I think mindset is really important as well. Having that openness where like you have to be open to receive for it to come to you as well. Which reminds me, do you believe like in the law of attraction or law of attraction? I think that's the one.
Yeah, I do believe in the law of attraction, but I can't say that I'm really one of these people because it's quite popular, right? Like ever since like The Secret. But for me, I just really believe like in the law of openness. And what I mean by that is just being completely open and letting like the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, just like, show out. Like I always say, it's like, like what else? Like how good can it really get? And one of my daily prayers is like, let me be what I need to be to attract what I want into my life. So for me, that's really what, I guess, I do practice it, but I don't talk about it like as much people do, because at the end of the day, we do live in a vibrational universe, right? And what you want, you have to be resonating at it. And so I'm just always looking, okay, how can I let go of that? But I don't really focus intentionally focus on it. I think for me, I'm very open to. I'm a Pisces. I do follow astrology, so it's very Piscean. I believe in magic. If it's not magic, like what's the point? So I'll give you an example, right? Cambridge. I knew I would be speaking at Oxford. This is what happened. Because last year I spoke in Cambridge and I picked a hotel. Like how I pick all of my hotels. Like, is there a spot that I can actually go into a sauna? And the hotel that I picked, they all had different room names called, and the room I was actually staying in was Oran. And so I remember like right before I gave my talk last year, I went to go print it out the concierge, and I just happened to have because the keys were like this long, it's like a big bar, and it had the word Oran on it. And I just decided to ask the lady at the counter, what does Oran mean? And she says, Oran is the name of a college at Oxford. She goes, the two owners of the hotel were actually classmates, and all the rooms in this hotel are actually named after schools from Oxford and Cambridge. The minute she said that, and I knew nothing about this conference coming up, I said, I am speaking at Oxford. I mean, yeah, and I am. This is Oxford right now.
That is beautiful. I love it. And I'm so glad that we came all the way from Paris just for this.
And I'll tell you another thing too. Recently, I was in Paris at a bar with a friend of mine. And so literally, I know I'm speaking at Harvard next week. I'm already claiming it. So this is why I use law of attraction. So we're looking at the cocktail menu. And so he's actually asking about like this particular event. And as I'm looking at it and I'm picking at the menu, I just see the Harvard, and something just said to me, you were speaking at Harvard next. Like, it's just, and so for me, like, God is always speaking to us. It's like, it's just a matter of like, how open are you to be receptive to receive the message? Because I don't believe we were just sitting here with no manual, that we were sitting here with no guidance. It's like, how open are you to receiving? And it's very subtle. It's very, very subtle.
So have you always been like this, or did you have a point in your life where you questioned, like, did you have like a down moment in your life where you said, no, I need to listen to myself? Has there ever been a point like that for you?
Absolutely. When I moved to Paris, first of all, I had no business going to France. I had no connection to France. My family is from Liberia, West Africa. It's not a Francophone country. And, my mom and my dad was like, what the hell are you doing there? Like, you don't even speak one word of French, but it was like, I told my parents, I was like, because I didn't know what the hell what I was coming there for, but I was like, I had to go. I was like, I am being called to go there, and whatever's pulling me there is going to take care of itself. Like, meaning like, whatever job I'm supposed to do, because obviously I wasn't going to take a bar exam and learn how to practice law in French, right? I really knew that was a different path for me, and I had to just go on. And I think another thing about me is like, I just trust. Whether I trust and I have faith, but are there times where I'm actually, it wavers? Absolutely, because I can tell you, I struggled when I first got to Paris, I lost all of my clients. I was like losing my money, and it was like, oh my God. And it was really difficult to call my parents and be like, I need help. And they're like, what the hell are you doing there? Like, come back home, you know? And so, but I really had to go within and be like, I know you don't understand. And I know I can, because one of the most difficult questions for me to answer at the time was, hey, Wani, what are you doing in Paris? And I had no idea myself either, because like, it wasn't quite clear to me, like why I was being called there. But I know it was on a spiritual mission for me to actually discover who I really am. It's for me to actually become the woman I needed to be in order to have the impact that I'm meant to have, because for me, even being a lawyer is just way too small in my life.
What do you actually do in Paris? Have you had a complete career change, or you still practice law?
I still do both. So I speak and I practice law, and it's now where like speaking for me is actually becoming much more dominant. I do write books as well too. I write books in spirituality and personal development. But yeah, I still practice. I live in France for like the lifestyle, but I have my own clients, that are in the US. Because I do trademark and IP, and so I don't go in courts. I don't necessarily need to be in like specific location, but I also design my life that way. And I speak a lot on change. I speak on entrepreneurship. I do workshops. And I'm here now.
Amazing. What is your favorite topic to speak on?
Life, spirituality, like the things we're talking about, like what really, really matters. Like what our vision is, like what inspires people. Because for me, inspiration for me is like my main tenet. Like I've got 3 companies, and 2 of my companies is actually called, has the word inspiration. The French one is the House of Inspiration Business, which is actually helping business become and companies become a place of inspiration to have inspired teams and inspired cultures. Then on the legal side, I have, it's called Where Inspiration Meets Law, which is actually taking like, which is essentially me, like, because I'm very firm in spirituality, God, and spiritual teachers, but I'm also very grounded in this 3D money world and connecting with that, because I have a passion for both of those as well too. So I just like talking about the stuff that really matters, because I feel like what's happening here at this conference, right? Real people getting together, talking about real problems and really how to solve them. Whether it's like the mental health, like I talked about, where it's the social media content I forget the woman spoken earlier. Whether it's, Dr. Angie speaking about, STEM and getting women involved in all of that, like these were real issues.
Do you think spirituality is an issue for people? Why do you think more people, there's so much out on spirituality. What is the reason why you feel people are worried or scared to go on that path of spirituality, to go on that path of openness and change?
Because it changes every single aspect of your life. Like I said today, like I shared my talk, this is the end of your world as you know it. In fact, my next book that I'm about to write, or that I'm about to publish rather, it's called There is Spirituality and There is Truth. And it's literally all about the spiritual path, about what really happens like once you get on that path, because like there's a huge dynamic shift, right? So for example, everybody knows Americans, we're all about consumers, we're all about money, right? We like work hard, right? But we're realizing how like our way of life is actually killing us. So what happened? So we go to India, and now we're extracting their culture, and everyone's doing yoga and into that. But with our, short span of a mindset, we want a Burger King size everything. We want everything instantly like that, right? So for example, like you take a subject like Tantra, which is like, in terms of like an entire philosophy of generations, and now it's all about like 9-hour orgasms, right? Like this is ridiculous. And so, and I really talk to people about, okay, listen, when you get on this path, like you're going to go through hell. People can look at me now and say, my gosh, I live in Paris and blah, blah, blah. But I was like, I had to like go out. I had to face all of my fears, the things I was attached to that was being taken away from, like losing all of my clients, when I moved to Paris. And so people are just afraid of like their life changing. I think people are just afraid. We're conditioned. There's a way we've been conditioned to live in society. And when you get into spirituality, you get away from all of that, because you start questioning everything, right? You start to understand that, wait a minute, your life is being formed by the ways you think, by the ways you actually feel, like the way, like there's an inner child that says a 4-year inside of that's actually running your business, right? And people don't want to have like their reality to be completely disrupted. And so they just kind of like go with the mainstream life. And I have to say it's easier, because the price of being awake is no joke. Like you can't unsee, like once you see truth, like once you get on that path, like you can no longer pretend you can be ignorant. You see for what it is, and you see the reality of our world, like it's not what it is. And it's not what we've been sold to. And you can see the disparities of, the exploitation of certain cultures. You can see how certain cultures have actually progressed and achieved like massive amount of wealth at the expense of exploitation, slavery of other people. And I'm not just talking about Black people, I'm talking about everybody. You know what I mean? With India, you can talk Africa, Haiti. I mean, there's some despair everywhere.
So one of the main skills I've taken away from this conversation is the skill of openness. Other than openness, is there any other skill for open to change would you suggest?
I would say curiosity is, it's really being curious about life. I find myself to be very, very privileged. And I feel like any of us who's living in Europe or the Americas, where we're so spoiled out, we're demanding organic foods and, and bottled water, like we're too good to drink from water from the hose, is that, you have to just really like look at and just be curious about, because there's so much that's available for us to actually explore, right? And that we can actually have to have these incredible lives. And I always tell people, like, I grew up I'm extremely grateful for everything in every moment where I take nothing for granted, because I look and say, my gosh, like, for example, I have siblings that know war. Like they, in Liberia, we had a very gruesome, 20-year civil war. They're in the U.S. now, and they actually escaped the war. Whereas for me, I didn't have to go through that. Like, when you look at what's happened, like in Gaza, I can look at that, but they can't, because there's a trauma that's triggered from that, right? And so for me, it's you have to recognize, I don't care like what's going on with you. If you like in this side of the world where, you're extremely privileged and there's so many opportunities that's in front of us, but it's like, we'll never follow like our curiosity, to follow anything, it's like, so yeah, I would say be open and like, what are you curious about? Go out there and explore it. And because once you start doing that, you talk about science, or we talk about science in the universe, where God is like, yeah, once you follow your curiosity, those are things that brings you joy. That's going to set you on a path to finding your purpose, because we're all always asking this, what's my purpose type thing, So yeah, I would say follow your curiosity as well, because that's what I've done. I mean, look at me, a non-Muslim Black African woman doing Ramadan. My goodness.
I love that. You're so cool and so inspiring.
So it's a motherhood. It's always been the desire to be a mom has just always been very near and dear to me. But I just never, like many African children, like our parents would just like go to school. So it's like, here I am for myself, finding myself to be at 49, really wanting to be a mother, and that hasn't happened for me. And like we were talking earlier, like my next TEDx, and it already came to me. I'm doing a second one, which is that. And it's going to be, because I'm actually on a movie documentary, it's called Project Manifest. And it's 10 cast members. And essentially we have to pick 2 goals. One goal is you have to pick a professional goal and a personal goal. And I picked my personal goal to meet my divine partner and to have a baby like in my 40s, at this point, probably 50. And the kick to that now is that right before Christmas, I was diagnosed with endometriosis. And which means now is like, I need to really hurry up and have a baby. And so it's just more of me having to put attention on it. And so in fact, when I went, my doctor's in Miami, is Indian, and I went to him, he read my Vedic astrology chart, and he was like, endometriosis is the fear of childbirth, this desire to become a mom, but the fear of actually not having it. He was looking at my chart, he was like, your soul is speaking to you, because we've always wanted to do. And so it's very much up for me. And like I said, like my TED Talk is about either that actually manifesting that or creating that for myself, or arriving at, okay, it didn't happen for me, and I'm so lovable, I'm so worthy, I'm okay, I'm going to be okay, because right now there is a part of me that feels like my life is empty because I don't have that. You can look at, my gosh, she's in Paris, she's speaking, she's blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I'm still sleeping on at night, like there's not that family structure, and I've always wanted that. And it's weird because it's like, I've had everything else. It's like, okay, like where the hell is the man? Like, why isn't this part for me? Why hasn't it happened? And it's literally, people have a lot of anxiety that's on that constant background. That's my constant background. It's like, my gosh, like I want that. Like I go on social media, I'm looking at babies. Like I'm not looking at, anything else but the babies and the kids and like I'm looking at families.
Like you're saying all of this, like I really want to have this, but they say that when you manifest, it's about wanting something and then actually doing the work, because there's no point of manifesting, saying, oh, this is what I want. Because sometimes there's a bit of a gray area when it comes to manifestation. Do you manifest being where you want to be, or do you manifest a feeling, the emotion that you would have, and then actually doing the work? I don't know, Vani, but I know we've known each other for a year, because I remember meeting you in St. Cambridge last year, and I don't know if you remember, I was limping quite badly. I had chronic back pain, and I was in a really bad situation at that point. And at that time, I was testing out this whole manifestation, because I'm really open to manifestation. So I was manifesting myself being able to run, be able to be free, and just feel so liberated. And nothing was really doing it for me. Like, I'm like, why is this not working? I've watched so many podcasts, I've watched so many shows of manifest. Why am I not able to walk? Is Venus here? And then I think I'd come across something. I must have watched like a random reel on Instagram. And when they said true manifestation is actually having the feeling what it would feel like to be where you want to be, but then actually doing the work. So by work, I mean, I went and got pain. I went for pain management treatment in India. Mm-hmm. And then I went and did physio for about 4 months. And I'm okay now. I'm able to walk. I'm able to run. I'm actually training for a marathon now as well, which is absolutely amazing. So something is obviously happening when I started to put in the work. I knew, just out of curiosity now, I don't know if I'm being a little bit nosy now or not, but you're saying you really want a child, you're getting all of these signs about meeting the match. Have you put yourself out there? Are you going on dates? Have you put yourself on like dating sites? Are you being open? Like, what are you doing in terms of work? Or if you're not doing anything, that's cool. If you just think someone's just going to drop out of heaven, it's like, my man just fell in front of me. I don't know. I'm just intrigued now.
I am on a dating site, and it sucks. It's a crapshoot. But I do believe in at least putting in the effort in some way. That's one avenue for it. But I don't actually feel like I'm actually going to meet my guy on the dating site. I did tell you that early this year I was getting a massage, a Thai massage, and I had a download that I'm going to meet this man this year through a mutual friend. But also to what I've reckoned in terms of manifestations, I realize why I have developed endometriosis, because it's interesting. Life is just so like perfect, because here I am, I speak on change. And I realized the reason why these things have not manifested for me, because there's a big fear of my life changing. I look at my life has been lived very single. Like, I've been doing whatever I want to do. There's whenever I want. That when I want to do something, I don't have to ask somebody any permission to do that, right? And so there is a part of me of fear of losing like my autonomy, like my freedom. That's preventing that, because I did meet someone last April, in fact, who's actually British. And he was like right away, like, I love you. And I was like, whoa, you know what I mean? When we went on holidays together, and I was like, and I really felt like, wow, this is what we like to get married. And for me, like when I wake up in the morning, like I do my thing, I meditate. He's not very spiritual. So, he wants to like put on the news. I'm like, dude, come on. Like, no, like just talk to God, And so I realized, I was like, wow, this is like my personal space, and I realized, oh my God, like this is a big fear of being changing. There's also a fear of intimacy. There's a fear of like my body changing. There's a fear of, like what's going to happen. So for me, part of the work as well too, is also feeling non-singular, meaning like feeling my life with a partner, making space in my life for someone else. But at the same time as well, to addressing those underlying fears of the fear of change, the fear of like, because I realized, you can be dating someone. Like, I've never lived with a guy ever in my life. I've always had my own place. So which means like no one has really seen me on a very intimate level. And there's a part of me that doesn't want a man to see all of that. So guess what? What is the solution? Like, just keep yourself single. You date unavailable people, right? It's a mess.
I feel like change starts from you. Yeah. When you change, and like you were saying about just being open to the change and being curious, like what if, like right now, I think I think subconsciously you're saying, it's like, does your mind and your words meet? Your mind is saying, I want to do this. I really want to do you're saying to me, like, I really want to do that. I really want to have this child. I have this issue. It's happening, but nothing's really happening. But then in your mind, there's some sort of that fear that you mentioned, that some limiting beliefs that are holding you back. What if? So maybe finding a way of removing those ifs and buts and just being like, it's cool. I'm okay with it. And two people coming together, I think, looking at it's not easy. Two completely different. Initially, you have the honeymoon phase, but everything's perfect. You're saying yes, babe, to everything, and then you get 6 months in, and like, I don't agree with you. But I think finding that fine line, that mutual balance between it's okay to disagree on things. It's okay when you're not always going to meet eye to eye. But I think the main thing in the relationship, from things I've heard from other people, is your core values. Mm-hmm. If your core values match, so if your core value is spirituality, family, kindness, if your partner has exactly the same values as you, and despite the fact that you like Italian and he likes French, that those things don't matter. Those things are superficial. It's the deeper, meaningful things that really, truly matter. And I think it's interesting because sometimes they say that it is a lot of us kind of go for that, about the chemistry and the butterflies in the stomach, but a lot of people say the life partner and the person they end up marrying isn't the one that they initially got that sparkles from, initially had that initial chemistry from. It's that someone who they actually just thought, this person, I like them, but I'm not getting anything from it. But they realize that after a few months. So I think it really depends what we're looking for, I guess. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I completely agree with you. You know, it's so funny. Like, I recently connected with somebody online. It was on Hinge. We had a date. And so he's like, okay, well, tell me about you. And I literally said, okay. I said, okay, here's the basics. I said, I'm a lawyer. I'm a speaker. I'm from Miami. I'm West African, And I go, okay, here's what really matters. I go, here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I want. And I was just like, this is a vision for my life. I want to live, and I am living this right now. I'm just living between Europe and the United States. I said, ever since I was 6 years old, I said I wanted two things. I wanted to have 3 homes all over the world where I could live seasonally. And I also wanted to live between US and, and Europe. And for me, I go, what do you think about that? Is that your vision as well too? Because for me, it's like, not living that life, or not living like a global life that I do, would be very stifling. So I can't be with someone who doesn't have that same type of vision, who's in the same place. So how you see how you look at life and what you both want is just so much more important. All the chemistry and this and all that, to the point to where, like, now, as you get older, you just know better, right? And so in the beginning, we're all falling from looks. I'm like, he's hot, he's tall, he's da-da-da. And it's just like, I'm realizing, like, the nice guys, like the ones, like the nerds, like the you know what I mean? Like the guys, the engineers, people don't want to go for it. But I realized, hey, that's the guy. That's the guy. These hot flashes, or these one that they're in. No, it's like, no, it's the boring guy that's going to take care of you. So that's now, like, I'm going for that. It's like, because I'm already lit. You can say I can talk, and I'm very fired up. It's like, so I don't need somebody to be super lit with me too. But it's like, no, give me the engineering type. I'll take him, because that's the real deal.
Do you not feel, guys, because obviously you're so confident and you're so beautiful, do you not feel guys feel a little bit threatened by because you're extremely tall, you've got the very model physique, and you've got this awesome personality? Do you not feel like you're so accomplished? And because a lot of men want to serve their lady, they want to be able to take care of their counterpart, their lady on their side. Do you not feel sometimes that because you groom yourself so well, you take care of yourself, you don't need anyone, they feel like they can't serve you? Do you, I don't know, I'm just curious now. Being like you curious, like you suggested.
I have never felt that. I hear that's a very common vernacular, like, in thought leadership in relationships. But for me, I've never felt that I needed to dim my light to make someone else accept me. Because in my past relationships, I mean, dudes were like, yeah, she's a baddie. You know what I mean? Like, they like the fact that I'm like that. Like, they don't feel threatened at all. and they still cater to me. And so for me, it's just like, they just, I don't know. I find like when it comes to relationships, there's like real life, and then there's like social media, or like what's happening like online.
What's the real life?
Which is just so different. You know what I mean? It's just like, so yeah, I've never felt that. Actually, this did happen to me one time. I met this really cute Latin guy. He's come to pick me up, right? And so he was late to come and pick me up. And so I was like, hey, because we had reservations. And so he called me up. He's like, hey, I'm really sorry. He was like, my car is acting. He's like, do you have a car? And I was like, yeah. He said, well, do you mind if you drive? And I was like, no problem. Don't worry about it. You know, Latin men are very chivalrous. So he's like, I'm so sorry. So I said, you know, when you come, you know, just give your car to the valet and then we'll just go, right? And so I said, let me know when you get here and I'll go downstairs to get my car. So he did what I asked him to do. And so when I was in Miami, I used to have a Porsche Boxster. So I came in to pick up the guy with the top down. I had a navy blue Porsche Boxster with like a tan interior, and his mouth was like this. Is this your car? And he's like, "Is this your car?" And I said, "Yeah, it's my car." You know. So we get into the car. Automatically, like his whole energy level just completely dropped. You know. And I was living like a beautiful loft building, and so then he was like, do you own or are you renting? And I was like, I own, but I said, I actually rented. I lived there for a year, you know, and then I ended up buying. And like the whole date just went completely like, talking to this guy was like pulling teeth, you know what I mean? And like, he wouldn't even talk to me. And he was just so intimidated by like my success. You know, I was working for a law firm, you know, I was fresh out of school, and I never heard from him again. But here's the thing though, which is what I hate, is that he didn't give me the chance to actually say that for me to be able to buy that apartment that I did in that same building was that for 1 year, I worked my butt off and I saved $2,000 every single month. I didn't party. I bought nothing new. I literally was like on a tight budget because I was actually saving to buy the condo. And in fact, like the day that I closed on the place, I was still short like 130 something bucks. I had to ask my boss to like give it to me, and I had like nothing in my bank account, right? And so it was like, but he didn't see like the hardcore work that I did to actually get to where I'm at, because like, people like that, I thank God after him, which is why I can't remember. It's been such a long time. I don't attract people like that anymore. I was like, get off my face. Like, are you kidding? Like, you imagine like you work for everything, like no one gave you anything, and then here you are, like you get these people that just judge you, and like I'm like,
you deserve better than that. Well, I really enjoyed speaking with you, Vani, and I really hope you do meet the love of your life this year, and things go according to your plan.
Thank you. We're gonna have an Indian wedding too, because you now want to wear a sari.
It's already in. I love Indian weddings.
You know, the 3-part series, you know, the 3-day affair, I want all of that. So trust me, it'll be a big spectacle. Trust me.
Oh, I truly hope you meet the love of your life. Maybe even an Oxford. Oh, thank you. That's all from us at Skillcast today.
Thank you.